Hey guys, welcome back to another video. For some reason, I feel like I've been MIA, even though I really haven't been. But anyway, today I want to talk about the state of the trucking industry and what needs to happen in order for it to get better. Now, this morning I woke up to an article which talks about the timeline of the freight recovery according to analysts. But before we talk about their theories, I want to talk about the facts. Ready? Let's go! One issue that we're facing right now is the fact that volumes are way too low for the amount of trucks available, regardless of the fact that volumes have shown some strength this year and have been much higher than they were last year. But have those volumes actually been higher? Well, here's the thing. The demand is there. It's not enough of a demand for the amount of dispatchable trucks, but it's still there. And if we're talking about the month of August, what we're seeing right now in terms of volumes is more or less normal. In August, volumes usually start out very soft and slowly start building up as we approach Labor Day weekend. But this year, Labor Day weekend is almost here, but volumes are not really budging. So what gives? Well, the volumes are actually increasing. The issue that we're having this year, according to FreightWaves, is that increase in the volume is driven solely by those loads that are 100 miles or less, which are up 20% through the past year. Now, I don't know about you guys, but we as an interstate carrier, or me when I'm booking freight, I don't even pay attention to the 100, 200 mile runs, simply because even though the rate per mile is usually much better for those shorter hauls, the gross is just not there. So an increase in short haul volumes makes absolutely no difference in my operation, for example. Now, another issue that's related to volumes is the fact that these private fleets are expanding, and there is article after article after article coming out about how private fleets, shippers are trying to kind of isolate themselves from for-hire carriers. Just recently, the National Private Truck Council released its 2024 benchmarking survey, and they cited that the main reason for shippers switching to private fleets are cost control, revenue enhancement, leverage against higher rates, and even measurable competitive advantage. This survey also found that 62% of the shippers that did respond are planning to add more equipment throughout this year, 14% of which will be for expansion reasons. The rest is going to be just to replace older equipment. And to top it off, and this is the part which makes complete business sense, but of course it makes me a little bit nervous, this survey found that 65% of these shippers use their private fleets as leverage in those contract negotiations with for-hire carriers. And this is up from 50% in 2023. As my mother always says, it's business, it's nothing personal. All right, now the question is, what is being theorized in terms of the timeline of the freight recovery that we're all patiently waiting for? Well, the experts are saying that it could be another 2 years before we see some sort of turnaround. Now, one of the reasons is the fact that currently, even though it's not happening as often, what's happening is when smaller carriers go out of business, the capacity decreases from what we see because the amount of MCs decrease. Those carriers, those drivers, they get absorbed. They still get absorbed by those larger carriers. Maybe not in the amounts they were before, but still a percentage of them goes to work for those larger carriers, which means capacity is not actually decreasing as much. And I right away think of my example. I had to let everyone go, and my guys who were team members in our company, they found their jobs the moment we said we are going to be letting them go. So even though we downsized as a carrier and we have less capacity to offer, that doesn't mean the capacity in the general market decreased. The next thing we have to understand is that pretty much everyone agrees that while things in trucking on a larger scale are not really getting worse, What we are seeing is a prolonged crawl along the bottom. And because of all of these issues, the fact that private fleets are expanding their fleet sizes, which also affects the amount of volume available for for-hire carriers, the fact that capacity while MCs are decreasing, some of it is still getting absorbed by other carriers, so it's not decreasing by as much. The fact that there are larger economic issues at play right now that have an effect on volumes. All of this means that, yes, a correction will ultimately happen. It's just going to take a while. So the next question is there anything that could cause a very rapid correction in the freight market? And the answer is yes, of course there is. First of all, we have to talk about the economy. Even though it's not as rapid as the other points that I'll mention, it's still a rapid change in the market. If interest rates tomorrow were to get cut like crazy, that means the cost of borrowing money would decrease, and that affects everything. Business investments and consumer spending would increase because, for example, on the business side, if the cost of borrowing money starts decreasing, that means that businesses have a chance to expand and actually increase the amount of jobs they offer. And that, of course, has a trickle-down effect. Now, on the consumer side, lower interest rates would mean lower interest on mortgages, car loans, debt, credit cards, and basically it makes it more affordable for consumers to borrow in order to spend money. And when businesses are expanding and consumers are spending, that all affects manufacturing, and of course, manufacturing can affect load volumes in a really big way. Now, there's another thing that could change the market situation really rapidly, according to Fleet Owner, although I completely disagree with their rhetoric, but they say that increased regulations in the trucking industry can actually reduce capacity and therefore increase rates. And they cite historical data. They say that in 2017, it was the ELDs. In 2004 and 2014, it was the hours of service. And in 2021, drug and alcohol database. And all of these pretty much had an immediate effect on rates. Now, personally, I would not want to see the reason for a market boom to be increased regulations. I think I would rather a slow recovery than a market where the only reason that it's getting better is because it's much more challenging to operate. I don't know about you guys. And the final thing that could really rapidly turn the market around is, of course, something unpredictable, a black swan event. For example, if a rail strike were to happen in the US and would actually happen, of course, this is a double-edged sword, but in the short run, there would be such an increased demand for trucks, rates would skyrocket, and shippers would be basically fighting over capacity. But in the long run, it would be a disaster for the trucking industry. Or another black swan event like a COVID lockdown or some crazy weather event that is just horrific. Those kinds of things, of course, give the trucking industry a very, very big boost. But the question is, at what cost? My point is, what we see in the market right now is something that we have to adapt to. And something that is interesting is I make videos about the market and the realities of trucking every single week on this channel, but I still made the mistake of being too hopeful, which nearly killed my operations. Oh, next month is going to be better. Oh, seasonality is coming, it's going to be better. Oh, this month we had an unexpected expense, it's definitely not going to repeat. And again, because I had a hard time admitting to myself that, hey, this is the market you are dealing with, and all those unexpected expenses end up happening every single month, I nearly lost my operation. Thankfully, it was not too late when we decided to completely downsize our company, lay everybody off, and go back to square one. It was a hard decision to make. It's still hard to accept, but it's probably one of the soundest decisions we have made as a company. No regrets here, just a hurt ego. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me and watching today. I hope you have a fantastic week, rest of your week. Make sure to book those long loads. Although I will see you in the market update video on Thursday, where I will talk about what changed in the market week over week. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.